It's very important for us to understand exactly how our spend is filling our sales funnel. So we measure on a weekly basis actually the cost per lead we're generating out of the various channels. It's actually a very dynamic process because in the digital space and in social media we're changing advertising and messaging on an almost daily basis, sometimes based on response rate. Out of the response rate, we're able to generate a rand per lead generated, and these are obviously the qualified leads generated, and then we track the conversion rate of that and then generate a rand per sale. Well, anything in the above-the-line space that doesn't have a specific call to action is impossible to track. I have no idea where it goes or what it does. It's obviously brand building mainly or about awareness, but that's impossible to figure out exactly what behavior that's driven in a consumer. So a TV ad that doesn't have a specific URL or a specific SMS code or a specific financial services offer, it's almost impossible for me to see what benefit I'm getting out of that unless I do something like a brand lift study with Google where we can run the TV ad on television and then we run the same TV ad on YouTube and we can track the awareness levels out of those two things together. But that doesn't give me a rand per lead conversion rate at all. Brands thought it was a space they needed to play in, and then once they opened the church doors, they realized they couldn't throw anybody out. So it became a hygiene factor for brands and an opportunity to build communities with your customer base. What we're finding with social now is it's actually becoming a business tool. So using promoted tweets and the right sort of offers on Twitter, for example, we're actually able to generate leads, real leads, which we then push into the sales funnel, which we then track through the entire sales process, and we're selling cars out of Twitter at the moment now. And the great thing about it is I can tweak a message immediately. If something doesn't work, I know to change it the next time, and I'm getting a very good cost per lead generated out of that. We're under 40 Rand a lead on social media for the leads we're generating, which is dirt cheap. It's unbelievable. It's a central process driven by the business model and a profit ratio that we have to have. So how much contribution are we making to the group in total versus the cost? It's quite a difficult thing to track as well because there's obviously pressure on the markets around the world to make sure you keep your overheads as low as possible, and marketing's an overhead. It's something that's tracked on a cost per car. So if we have a volume projection for next year which is lower than this year, our marketing budget for next year will be lower than this year. It's something that I believe we are underspending in our market relating to how we're performing, which is a good measure for our effectiveness as a marketing team. However, it does put us under resource pressure to deliver when the going does get tough, and the market is getting tougher at the moment. We were a brand that was very ATL focused 5 years ago, and digital and social media is really growing exponentially. So it doubled from last year to this year. It'll double again from this year to next year in terms of how much money we're spending on those channels. And experiential is changing for us as well. So we used to be a very experiential brand in the 90s, in the heydays of massive marketing budgets, and unfortunately experiential marketing got cut. And I believe that's a fundamental flaw. The emotionality of driving a BMW specifically is only experienced when you drive it. It's not experienced in a TV ad. It's not experienced in a radio ad or on a billboard. It's conveyed in those mediums, but the actual emotion that it generates comes from sitting behind the driver's in the driver's seat and behind the steering wheel. So we're going to try and shift up almost up to 40% of our budget next year into experiential marketing. That covers sponsorship and experiential events, and I think that's really the right sort of balance to be in. So 60% on brand communication, 40% on experiential, and of that 60%, I'd say probably only 20% to 25% is going to be spent on above the line in the future.